My next guest had her sights set on a sky-high dream.
I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't want to fly. When I was about 8 or 9, I would start begging people to take me out to the local airport so I could watch the airplanes take off and land. And in 1979, I happened to be the first female co-pilot for American. And, the guys would just stare at me and they're like, oh my gosh, I have a female co-pilot. They had never flown with female pilots ever in their career, not in the military. I mean, it was very unusual. You kind of had to prove yourself. And what I felt like was so important is I had to gain their respect. If they respected me as a pilot and respected my abilities, then I was no different than a guy.
Beverly Bass joins us from her home in Argyle, Texas. Beverly, thank you so much for joining us. It's so good to have you on. I love what you said about respect, because so much of being the first is about wanting that respect. You're not there to check a box of being a woman or a diverse person. You're there because you were good and you earned it and you wanted that respect from them. How did you ultimately get it? How did you break that wall?
Well, I think in the beginning it was a matter of being pretty exceptional at your job. And once they realized that you could do anything in the airplane, just like one of the male pilots, then they absolutely respected you. And you had to show respect towards them. You couldn't act like, you couldn't try to act like you were one of the guys. I always used to say, I'm a girl first. I just happen to be a girl pilot.
Yeah. Well, that is so true. You're looking at these people who, as you said, many of them had been in the military. They'd not flown with a woman before. And you are teaching them in so many ways, I can do it, and I may have to do it better than you. How did you keep from being frustrated? Because so often we talk about women having to work harder. We have to put in more hours to prove ourselves, and that can tear on you, and that can weigh you down. How did you keep it from breaking your spirit?
Well, I think if you talk to any of the gals who were the first women to fly for the airlines, I think they would all tell you that we put the pressure on ourselves to feel like we had to be perfect. I think we were the ones who put the pressure on ourselves. And then once we became very comfortable in our position, whether it was where we started as flight engineers, or we then became co-pilots and then captains, we no longer had to prove ourselves because we were good at our job.
Yeah, listen. And some of your story is featured in a Broadway musical now because, to your point, you became so good at your job at a critical time in this country during 9/11. You were piloting an aircraft and you ended up out of the country, stuck, and it was an emotional time for you. 9/11, and now you are the leader that all that training required of you.
It was obviously a very difficult day for all of us. There were so many pilots who were airborne at that time. And I always say I didn't do anything different than any other captain would have done as far as managing the passengers, the crew, and the airplane. But yes, we were leaving Paris, France on our way back to Dallas. It was a 10-hour flight. It was a perfectly gorgeous day over the North Atlantic. And then we got word on our aircraft radios that the towers had been hit by an aircraft. We didn't know that the airplane's been hijacked. We didn't know any of the details. We didn't know who the airplanes belonged to. And then we were ordered to land in Gander, Newfoundland, which we did. What was very different about that day is usually if we're going to divert one of our airplanes, we coordinate that with our company dispatchers. That day, it was an order to land immediately. So that was quite different than what we're used to. And then we spent the next 5 days with the lovely folks in Gander, Newfoundland.
That's incredible.
And 10 years later, I did the interview with David Hine and Irene Sankoff. And ultimately, they wrote a masterpiece that became the musical on Broadway and all over the world called Come From Away.
Yeah.
And finally, the people around the world are getting to hear the beautiful story.
I got to tell you, how does it feel now when you see women of color, all of the strides that have been made in aviation that followed your bravery to face skepticism and closed doors, the ceiling that you broke, the glasses, as Hillary Clinton said, the 14 million little pieces, you did that in your industry. How does it feel now when you walk on a plane and you see women in the cockpit?
I can't go to the airport without seeing a female pilot, whether it be for American or some other airline. That seems like they're everywhere, which I absolutely love.
I love it. I love it. When we come back, Beverly is sticking around. We're going to be joined by Rachel Tucker, who plays Beverly in the Tony Award-winning musical Come From Away, based on Beverly's journey. And we're going to get a special Tam fan performance. Get ready. We are back with Beverley Bass, the first female captain to fly for American Airlines. And we are joined by the first female from Belfast to ever perform on Broadway, Rachel Tucker, who plays Beverly in the Tony Award-winning musical Come From Away, which chronicles the stories of a group of people whose flights were rerouted to a small town in Newfoundland on September 11th. Beverly Bass was the pilot for one of those flights, and actress Rachel Tucker portrays her in the musical. Welcome to the Tam Fam. I have to ask you, I'm always so curious when you are portraying someone who is in the audience watching you portray them. Yes. What is that like for you?
Pretty scary. It's the first show I've ever done with the person that I'm portraying still alive. Wow. Yeah, so there was lots of pressure. And also the wonderful Jen Kalula originated it and a role model and massive shoes to fill. But I mean, it's brilliant to have Beverly pretty much on tap. Whenever, hi Beverly, hi, good to see you. There you are. Hi, sweetie.
Beverly, is it true that the first time you saw Come From Away, you cried pretty much through the whole show?
Oh, absolutely. I think my husband and I missed 75% of the first show.
Because of the tears. I'm sure it is a spectacular feeling, one that you could not have imagined as a young girl saying, one day I'm going to fly, and making history, and then seeing it on the Broadway stage. It has to be just an incredible sensation, Beverly.
It is pretty amazing.
Oh.
I can't even describe what it felt like to see the show for the first time. Oh. I've now seen it 166 times as of last night.
She's seen it more than I have been in it.
Oh my God.
More than I've performed in it.
That is amazing. Well, this is such a huge treat and honor for us. And Rachel is here to perform Me and the Sky from Come From Away. Rachel, take it away.
I grew up at the airport. Took lessons, learned to fly planes. So I applied as a flight engineer. But the World War II pilots, they all complained. They said girls shouldn't be in the cockpit. Hey lady, hey baby, hey, why don't you grab us a drink? And the flight attendants weren't my friends back then. And they said, are you better than us, do you think? But I kept getting hired, and the World War II crew, they retired, and the girls all thought much higher of me. 1986, the first female American captain in history. Suddenly I'm in the cockpit. Suddenly I got my wings. Suddenly all of those pilots protesting me. Well, they can get their own drinks. Suddenly there's no one safe to stay grounded. Looking down, passing them by. Suddenly there's nothing in between me and the sky. Suddenly I got an all-female crew. News caught, it made headlines across the world. Suddenly it stopped. No one's saying you can't, or you won't, or you know. putting pins in the map where we've flown. Suddenly I am a mother, and suddenly shocked at how much they've grown. Suddenly I'm wondering how my parents would feel seeing me teaching men to be pilots, when suddenly I am a senior instructor. Somehow I'm 51. Suddenly I'm flying Paris to Dallas, across the Atlantic and feeling calm, when suddenly someone on air-to-air traffic says at 8:46 there's been a terrorist action, and the one thing I loved more than anything was used as the bomb. Suddenly I'm in a hotel. Suddenly something has died. Suddenly there's something in between me and the sky.
Wow. You can see Rachel in Come From Away on Broadway, and you can stream the live film version of the show from home on Apple TV+. Thank you so much, Rachel. What a beautiful performance.